Hello, my name is Sean Grace and I'm the Sanctuary Director here at New Jersey Audubon Society's Plainsboro Preserve. And here we are into early fall, and today I thought we'd look around the preserve and take a look at some of the seasonal changes, such as the colors in the beautiful trees here, and talk about some of those changes that are happening and why they're happening. And a little bit later on, we're going to go inside the center. We'll take a look at some of the animals and talk about how they adapt to the winter season. So come on and join us. Look at this right here. This is one of the many wildflowers that we find on the preserve, but this is goldenrod. And at this time of year, this is a critical food resource for migration, in this case for monarch butterflies on their way to Mexico. So they'll gossip on this and use it as a nectaring source. And right next to it, this is also a critical food resource for migration, but in this case with some of our feathered friends. So birds here on the preserve will eat this. This is pokeweed or pokeberry. And at this time of year, you can tell because it's this beautiful purple color. By the winter months, this will have turned a ghostly white, okay? And these skeletons that are left over, you can tell that it was here. And it's this beautiful purple berry, and if you squeeze it, it produces this beautiful pinky color. You can see right here, and you can tell that the birds have been eating it when you find bird scat with that color in it. One of the questions I'm often asked by visitors to the preserve is, what are some of the reasons for the change in the seasons? Here we have some leaves that are a beautiful green color. Well, some of the changes are driven by the sun, day length, and the angle of the sun. In the summer, the sun's up around 72 degrees. But as we move towards fall and winter, it'll dip down to around 34 degrees. So leaves will start as a beautiful green color like this. And the reason they're green is because there's chlorophyll in these. And that's the driver, that's what harnesses the sun's energy, and that's what allows plants, our primary producers, this is what grabs the energy from the sun and puts it into the ecosystem. But a little bit later on, especially here in the north, these leaves need to drop off the trees. You know, the weight of the snow, if it came in the winter and hit all these leaves on a tree, boom, breaks branches off. So leaves will start as a beautiful green color like this, but the shortening day length causes changes. As we look here, this is a high bush blueberry, one of the plants that grows on the preserve. One thing that many folks don't know is that certain trees typically turn certain colors. So here, blueberries are almost always red. And red is the true color of the leaf after the green or the chlorophyll has started to die off and not be produced by the plant. So the plant stops producing chlorophyll and the underlying beautiful color of the leaf comes out. In this case, it's a beautiful red. And reds are caused by anthocyanins. There's $1 million word for you, but that's what causes it. Oh, and look here. Here we can see where the family of beavers that live here on Lake McCormick, where they've been actively working. So this is fresh. This time of year, they really start to pick up in how many trees they cut down. And they've been very busy all over the lake. We're actually doing a family program on the beavers of Lake McCormick a little bit later in the year. But they'll cut these down. Beavers are cachers. That's their survival strategy. They'll cut these down, they drag them into the water, and they'll bring them over in front of their lodge. Many people think that beavers hibernate. They don't hibernate. They put together a big stockpile of food resources down under the lake, and they stick it down in the mud, and all winter long, they swim out from their lodge, they go into the water, they go down, they grab themselves a snack, and they'll eat all of the bark off the outer layer of that twig, and then they discard it. Beavers eat this cambium layer. That's what they eat. That's what they survive on, and it's loaded with sugars and starches. Think of it as bread and potatoes. That's what they eat. And here we have sweet gum. Sweet gum's a beautiful tree, or the star tree. I'll tell that to some of the different kids in classes that we teach. But you can see this beautiful sort of star-shaped leaf that it produces. And this is a tree that loves wetlands. And if the preserve has one thing, it does have a diversity of wetlands and wetland habitats. And this is a tree that typically turns red in the fall. It can also turn yellow. But typically this is a tree that turns red, and as you look along the lake, you can say, ah, there's sweet gum over there. Not only is it the red color that it changes, but it's the quality of the red. Okay, you can see that it's a fairly deep red. And right next to it, some of the other leaves that we see here, we have red maple. Red maple has red on the tree at almost any time of the year. It has these shallower lobes to it. And this tree typically turns red, but it will also turn yellow. Sugar maples typically produce those beautiful oranges and yellows. And the yellow, the underlying structure in the leaf there is caused by keratins. And keratins are what cause, that's the underlying structure in the leaf, and that's what causes it to turn yellow. But on the red maples, you can get a whole diversity of color. We're in fall, and there's still some of the late season blooming wildflowers. Be it these beautiful purple asters right here, or a little further on we have some native sunflowers. Oh, this is great. Right here we have a praying mantis. This time of year they blend in perfectly. Here he is, beautiful praying mantis. And their survival strategy, they eat lots of insects this time of year, but they're going to breed and then they'll lay their eggs here, oftentimes on this bush clover. But what they'll do is they'll exude a sort of foamy substance. Think of it as the foam that you would spray indoors to insulate an area, and it actually hardens. And these guys, their survival strategy is they'll spend the rest of the winter in the form of an egg. In the spring, they hatch. They'll drop out of those egg casings, and they'll start again. All summer long, we'll find as these guys shed their exoskeletons, their exterior skeletons, we'll find those as they grow and continue to grow. So we always know that we're here, but this is the time of year when you actually see him. And he's trying to sink his claws into me here. Ooh, look at him in his fighting posture here. Super cool animal. Ah, and look here. We have bayberry. And bayberry right now, it's produced all these beautiful berries. This is about as north as you'll find it in the state of New Jersey. It really likes these sandy soils that we have here at the preserve. But this is a critical food resource during the winter for the yellow-rumped warblers. And we get a lot of yellow-rumped warblers that come down here from Canada. And they actually come down here from Canada to the balmy New Jersey winters, and they'll spend the whole winter down here eating this stuff. So it's a great bird to see. But well, why don't we head inside, and I'll show you some of the animals we have and how they adapt to the changing seasons. Of our new additions here at the center is a box turtle. His name's Cardboard. That's not my name, but he's a pretty cool little guy here. And it is a boy turtle. Boy turtles do have divots oftentimes in the bottom of their shell, as Cardboard does here. And he's a fairly old turtle. If you look at each one of the individual pieces that make up the shell, these are called scutes. And there's growth rings on the scutes, and if you count the number of growth rings, you can determine how old the turtle is. And it's not an exact science, but it's pretty close. And so he's about 30 years old. He is a box turtle. Box turtles have a unique hinge on the bottom right here, and he can actually close his plastron if he chooses to. He can bring his legs in, his arms in and his head in and shut it up tight, and that's a defense mechanism so predators can't get in and bother him. But reptiles, they have their own unique challenge as they move into winter. And if you think about it, with reptiles and amphibians, they need to eat everything that they're going to eat in an entire year in a 6-month period. So they're in New Jersey, 6 or 7 month period. So this is a guy, he'll know every square inch of his territory, which would be a couple of acres, and know where all the berry crops are at different times of year, know at nighttime earthworms are coming up, and he'll fatten himself up, but then he needs to live off those food resources while he hibernates. And these guys are hibernators. They'll drop their respiratory rate, their heart rate way down, and they'll just do a slow, long burn endurance into the spring. And once we start to get the sun level starts to come back up, starts to warm up the ground, then these guys will come up out of hibernation, and we're likely to see them moving around out on the preserve. They are turtles, they're not tortoises, but they are very long-legged turtles. And so he's a terrestrial turtle. He spends most of his time walking around out on the ground. So you're not likely to see him in the lake, in Lake McCormick, but you're likely to see him out moving around in the preserve really pretty much anywhere. So very cool animal. And these guys can live a long time. You know, depending on the species of turtle, they can live up to and over 100 years. So I'm going to put cardboard away. So here we have a Fowler's toad, and this is one of the 3 species of toad in New Jersey. There's also American toads and spadefoots. This is the species that we find here on the preserve, and it has a very clean belly. That's one of the ways to tell that this is a Fowler's toad. American toads that have black speckling in here, but there's also spadefoot toads. Toads are terrestrial. That means they're going to spend their time up and on the ground. So the only time that these guys go to water is to breed. But in the fall, they're going to fatten up, and we can see that this is a well-fed toad. They'll fatten up. They'll dig themselves way down into the ground, and they will try to avoid freezing. We do have some species of frog that are actually freeze tolerant. You could take them and you could freeze them essentially in a freezer, put them away in cold storage for 6 months, take them out, and then once they thaw out, they will kick back to life. And it's a fairly complicated process. And if you come to some of our family nature programs, you can learn more about that process. But Fowler's toad, just a really cool animal. I love this spot right here, beautiful spot. You can see all the changes in the colors along the far shore, and we were over there a little bit earlier today. Whether you want to learn about the reasons for the seasons and why things change in New Jersey, or more about the animal life, I hope you come out and visit us for one of our family nature programs. And you can visit us at www.njaudubon.org, and then hit the / for centers, and then Plainsboro. And I hope we see you at one of our programs real soon. Thanks.